In this segment to make basic tonal corrections, we will use levels adjustment to make our adjustments and our tonal corrections. And we've already set a white and a black point, and so we know where the lightest and the very darkest part of our image is. So the first thing I want to do is to turn off the threshold, and what we're going to adjust for, just as a reminder here, is our print values. I'm going to do that one as our first one, and then subsequently we'll do the print newspaper values and then the web values. And you're going to see a difference amongst the different adjustments. We will stack those up separately and then separate them out. So first of all, our levels is going to take place. So our print values in the highlights, as a reminder, 5% in the highlights, and in the shadows, 95%. So what I want to do is I want to change my eyedropper options to make it a 3 by 3 pixel average. Okay, and so going back to my image, you can see here I've got the threshold adjustment. I'm going to put that panel away, the properties panel away. That one changes depending on what adjustment that we have as a layer adjustment. Now it makes it so that it's very flexible. I can turn the visibility of this adjustment layer off, and so I'm just going to leave it there because you never know when you need to actually go back and adjust something. Inevitably, your boss comes along and says, "That looks great, but can we change it to this?" Okay, it happens, trust me, after 30 years in the business, it happens. So I like to make everything as adjustable as possible. Okay, so I'm going to grab the eyedropper tool, and in the options panel at the top, we have a sample size right up here, okay, at the top, point sample. And I want to, instead of choosing a 1 point, or in other words, 1 pixel, we measure that very pixel and what amount of gray or light and dark that we're working with. I want to change it to a 3 by 3 average. Okay, so we've got that on straight. And then I want to also turn off, well, I've got the threshold turned off, but the next thing I want to do is make an adjustment layer with levels. Now I want to show you something, because most newbie Photoshop users may get into some of the drop-down menus, these adjustments here. And they may go to brighten up a picture thinking this is going to be fantastic. Let's get some contrast in this picture, which you can see my picture is kind of washed out. All right, but in a commercial setting, we've got to do this the right way. If your boss argues, yeah, he may not know Photoshop quite as much as you do. Brightness and contrast is one of the basic adjustments we can make for a tonal range. Levels is the next one. It's a little bit more sophisticated than the brightness and contrast. And the most complex and more accurate is curves. Usually when we're starting out in Photoshop, levels is just fine. We need to be able to understand that. But brightness and contrast, what happens is it throws away a lot of pixel digital information. So this is the most damaging thing that you can do to a photograph for adjusting the tonal range. Avoid it if you can, okay? So levels is probably the best one for us newbies, and in general it does a great job. Curves is more complicated, and so it's a little bit more advanced, which we can get into a later tutorial down the road. Levels and adjustments under this drop-down menu. This right here is a permanent change, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm using the same kind of adjustment. These are identical as what we have in the adjustment layer, which you can find, again, we're down here way at the bottom of our layers panel. okay, but I'm using levels here. And the reason for that is this is not a permanent change. We add a layer to it, which will allow us to affect, and you see this nice white mask here. It means that that's all completely open. And I have access to the properties, which you see here, and I can always adjust it later. So whatever I do to change the picture, okay, then going back to it, if I double click on the icon of the adjustment layer, then I can change it again later. Whereas the ones from the drop down menu here under adjustments, that is a permanent change, and we need to have this flexibility of being able to go back. Alright, so I'm going to put this back to what its original setting was. Alright, and we have need to look at this panel here, the properties for levels. Okay, so it keeps following me. Alright, so we have a set of 3 eyedroppers. As you notice here, the first one is to sample the image to set the white point. Now we have put a target for the white point, but we have not set it to a certain percentage. This is where the magic comes and we change things. There's also one for setting a gray point, which I do not have access to at this time. And we also have one for sampling and setting the black point. Okay, so let's get to it. I'm going to use first the white eyedropper sample, and what I want to do is take that eyedropper. This is a very simple move. I'm going to zoom in here to the pixel information. In fact, I want to get pretty close. I'm just really kind of picky about making sure that where I set my information, it's really going to stay there. And so all I have to do is take that white eyedropper. I'm going to double click in it. Before I click on the image, I double click the eyedropper itself, and what it does is it brings up my color picker. And in the CMYK area here, alright, I'm looking at a tonal range basically. And this will work for color pictures as well. You have to be careful, but in the black, what did we say that adjustment was actually going to be? 5% in the highlights right here. Okay, so I'm actually going to go in the K, which means actually it refers to black. And I'm going to put 5 in there. Okay, you'll notice that where we've got a little bit of a gray area as our new color. Go ahead and click OK. And it's going to ask me to save that new setting as my default. I'm actually going to say no, because I have other adjustments to do and I'm changing that constantly. So I'm going to say no. And it does set it for this one time. Now the eyedropper at the very tip of it, here's what I want to click where that target is in the middle of it. Simply click there, and I do have a very, very, very slight adjustment here. Okay, you notice that instead of 256, it goes to 253. Okay, that's a good setting for this. So you may not see exactly, what's going on with, changes. So it may be close to or right on top of what you needed, but I've at least set it to what I need. Now let's double click in the black point eyedropper. So I double clicked on that black point eyedropper in the levels property panel. That brings my color picker up. And what did we say that the black was going to be? The shadow is 95%, and that's what I want to put in the CMYK. So right here, all right, I have 75, 68. Okay, I'm looking for a tonal range, actually. So I'm going to put 0 in the CMY, which is cyan, magenta, yellow. If you didn't know what those are, the ink colors that we print, those are primary colors. And the black, I'm going to make 95%. Okay, so this is basically working with percentage of my tonal range overall. Go ahead and click OK, and again it's going to ask me if I want to save the new target color as default. I'm going to have to say no. Alright, where's my second target? So now I've loaded up, in essence, I've loaded up my eyedropper with a certain percentage, and then to change that where the target is, okay, when you click, I'm clicking the, holding the command and plus, or you can hold control plus, and again, you can always hold down the space bar to navigate or hand to where you need to, and I'm going to go ahead and click in that area, okay, and that sets that to 95% in that area. Okay, if I were to measure that, let's go to the info panel and put my measuring on, and yes, it's gone from 77%, which was what we started with, to 95%. Okay, that's exactly what I want. Alright, I'm going to fit this in window, Command or Control 0 to set this back and put away my info panel so that I can see what's going on. This is what the levels adjustment does. It holds those properties, and even though I see the targets here, those are non-printable things, so items. So don't worry about those. They will not be part of the printed piece. Okay, it's part of Photoshop, our controls. So I can always turn that off. This is where we started. Oh, yeah, that's kind of washed out. Here is for a magazine printable image. We're in perfect shape. In the next video, we're going to do the newspaper and then the web, and that should go pretty fast.